right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the world's most exciting classroom. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. Oh, wow. Do we have a lot to catch up on today? We have a lot of video clips we're going to play. We've got new experiments. We have our quizzes. We have live from the field connections. We just spent an amazing week and a half in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So many members of the DARWIN200 team converged on this spot. And we spent an amazing week working with 5 incredible conservation projects. So the Darwin leaders were busy. They were reforesting the Atlantic Rainforest. They were working with the Golden Lion Tamarin Project. They were out with the Guyana dolphins, out at Ilha Cagaras and doing some diving with sea turtles. They were out in the Tijuca National Park and reintroducing howler monkeys. So there was a wide variety of projects. We bounced around the different projects, collected all kinds of amazing footage. Throughout the week, we had a huge Darwin Day event on our last day where we had speakers from around the world, including Jane Goodall and Sylvia Earle joining us. It was just an incredibly special week. We met so many amazing people. We saw so many amazing things in Rio de Janeiro, and we really left with a feeling that, you know, things are in good hands there. Conservation is absolutely incredible. There's so many dedicated people working on so many projects to bring things back. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about reforestation and tree planting with our first guests. But before we do that, I want to play a little clip of the Oosterschelde leaving Rio de Janeiro. It is an iconic harbor. Many people around the world recognize this harbor. So we got some amazing drone footage as we were leaving that harbor. So I'm going to load it up here really quickly. And let's take a little look at what it looked like to be departing Rio. Okay. So there we go. We can see the ship is making its way out. It's a really big file, so the connectivity is a little bit slow, but as we pass, there's Sugarloaf. It's a famous mountain that you can see there in Rio in the harbor. And then if you look on the right, you can see Christ the Redeemer on the top of that peak. That's an incredibly famous statue. I think it's one of the new wonders of the world. And so you can see it there. It was overlooking us all week long as we spent our time in the harbor. You can see the Oosterschelde there there's some, looks like some brown boobies there flying by, a little flock. And you can see the drone moving across the water. Just absolutely iconic, absolutely beautiful place to visit. It was hard to leave. And so now that the crew is making their way to Uruguay, and we'll be having our next connection next week, the world's most exciting classroom. We will have it live from that location. And there we go. Just amazing. I could sit and watch this all day. And in fact, there is several minutes of footage. But if we do sit and watch this, we are going to miss some of our world's most exciting classroom. So I am going to take this down and I'm going to talk about what we're going to do now. So last week, we did our event live from the ocean. We were at Ilha Cagaras and we were doing some sea turtle diving. So we were able to do the world's most exciting classroom from the dive boat, which was a lot of fun. And joining us at the end was the Fabien Cousteau Ocean Learning Center. And they were with their turtle conservation project in Nicaragua, an amazing group of women who search for the eggs, bring them back to the hatchery, and protect them for the time while they're in the hatchery before releasing them safely when they do hatch. Now, they are in Nicaragua, some of the team, and we're going to have a different little event with them today. So while we were in Rio, we did some tree planting. We connected a corridor of trees between 2 reserves where animals weren't able to travel freely through. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that later in today's world's most exciting classroom, and I'll share a little footage with you. But the team, it just so happens, in Nicaragua with the Fabien Cousteau Ocean Learning Center are out on a reforestation project right now. So we thought we'd join them live for a few minutes. So let me see if I can get them in here live with us. Pamela, are you there?
Okay, you're live.
Hey, Pamela.
Okay,
Hey, Martin.
I'm seeing the screen. I'm looking for a chat from him. Now we're back to...
Okay, so they're having trouble hearing us, but there they are. We
Good
can
morning,
see cattle
Joe. Can you
pasture.
hear us?
We got
I
you
can
loud
see
and
your
clear.
chats. I'm not hearing you. So I'm going to pan around. No hands in your pockets. We hear us. Yay! Super. So good morning. We are here in the Miraflor Nature Reserve in Esteli, Nicaragua. So northwestern, but more central Nicaragua. And we are at approximately 1,500 meters above sea level. And what you're seeing is a group of individuals who are part of the restoration that we have to plant native trees in this area where there's a working agricultural farm. And if you can, quite magical. You can see the clouds are moving in the background. I'm just going to pan around again to give you a sense of where we are. We are so close to Honduras. The mountains, the furthest mountains you can see in this image are Honduras. And so we've got some cows and some sheep who have joined us this morning, but let's go back to focus on the restoration of the native trees. I'm joining you with a team of individuals who work here at the farm. Sorry, the lighting is a little dark here. Let me try to move without slipping. And we are going to work through an example of how we are doing the reforestation. I'll hand the floor over to Martine to give you some background and to do the demonstration of the reforestation effort. Martine?
Good morning, Joe. Can you hear me? Good morning, Joe. Good to be here with you guys. We're here with the team. This is William, Barralito, Julio, and Gerardo. So we are reforesting this area. As you can see, if you pan a little bit to the right, Pamela, this area lost some trees due to wind and climate change and rain. So this one we're gonna get started. Um, I hope you can hear me. So we're gonna start planting this native tree, the cedar tree over here. We are planting it in a working farm, so we're gonna demonstrate how we're doing it. We have to protect the trees due to we have a working farm. We have cattle, sheep, horses. So we're gonna get started. Vamos a sembrar entonces. We're marking them. We have already reforested near the 200. Um, this little batch that we're doing now, after we do the next 6, is going to reach the 200 trees. And we'll walk you farther into the mountain to show you the ones that we already have done. I hope you guys can hear me. So we make the hole. This beautiful earth you can see, a lot of nutrients. And then we put a little bit of coal. This is like here to see if any little insects are in there. Then we put a little dirt in it. Vamos a ir a hacer lo que está allá. These guys have magic hands.
No, está bien. So the lime helps to, it's an acidic soil, so that helps to make a pH balance for those scientists in the room. It balances it out, the pH of the soil. And then because the working farm, I'm going to slowly pan over back. We have the cows and the sheep that graze in this particular area. And so in order to have integration with the working farm and the reforestation, we need to protect the plants so they don't get nibbled on until they get large enough. We can take the screening, the protective screening off. So this area here actually had coffee planted in it, and about 25 years ago, it was one of the best tasting coffees, voted as best tasting coffees in the region. You can see there's been a great loss of trees in this area. The coffee trees were removed, but there was natural vegetation such as this tree. Let me try to show you. The Miraflor Nature Reserve has over 200 types of orchids. And if you can see on the tree, there's lots of bromeliads. I'm gonna bring you down, hopefully without getting you sick, but we've got bromeliads that have fallen off the trees with all of the recent rains and the wind. It was very windy today, but lots of orchids. And here are some of the coffee trees, just to show you how small they are. And they will be planted alongside some of the reforested trees in the area. But our focus today, those 200 trees for the Darwin 200 project.
So we'll do the next one. We're gonna walk a little that way, first the side of the mountain, and go do the next one. Vamos a ir a que está allá, William. We're gonna do that one over there.
If you can see in the background, there is a coffee processing plant, and there's some plantains and bananas. And so this area, again, as a working farm, there is open area for pasture for the cows, but the reforestation is occurring in areas where we've lost several trees, in addition to some of the areas. You can see this is, no, I wouldn't say it's virgin, but it's more heavily populated with the trees that has been left to nature and natural areas. It's been designated. So this is approximately 80 acres. And so 20 acres are for cow and 20 acres are focused on coffee. And then the other remaining acres are focused more on the reforestation and keeping the natural areas the way that they were approximately 20 years ago.
Yeah, so you can see we have some fallen trees here. So we are replacing the ones that have fallen to keep the same natural lines. So this guy, died. You can see all the bromeliads in this tree, like Pamela was saying. See down further. I don't know if you can see, Pamela. We reforest that side of that hill over there. You can see all the blue tape with the screen. That's what we planted. It includes the 200. And the further we walk, there's more. I know we don't have a lot of time, but with this one, that is number 195. So we got 5 more to go to reach the 200.
So we'll get those 200 trees in the ground today in celebration of this event. And also the team here has been planting coffee trees, and
Yes.
they've planted 2,000 coffee trees. So reforestation with the natural native trees in addition to maintaining the working coffee farm. They've been really busy. Yeah, you can see the tree there.
Yep. And the coffee trees have been planted under the understory of the forest. We can, if we have time, we can ride down there and show you. So, yep, we are reforesting the forest, the mountainsides that have been damaged by wind and rain. And these trees are some are very old too. They've been around for many, many years. I'm not sure. We've been coming here for 20 years, so they're quite old, some of them. We're just helping Mother Nature replanting more trees so it can go back what it used to be. And thanks for the opportunity. Here we go.
All right, Pamela, any
Right,
chance
10
you
more to
guys can
go.
hear us?
You want to do one more on the show? Let's do one more on the show. Vamos a aquel ahora, ya está. Vamos, vamos, vamos. Vamos al otro. Be careful walking through here. It's a little slippery. And this is what happens, guys. You see this tree here? You know, the rain and the erosion of the soil. The rain and the erosion of the soil. This is a good example of what happens, Joe. With time, it's a very older tree. Like I said, with the erosion and the rainfall and wind, this is what happens. You see the roots are coming up, and at one point it's going to fall. So we're so happy that we are reforesting here. Next one.
So we've got some sunshine today, which is a gift. And I saw there was a question about the cloud forest. The scientific terminology, I don't know the answer to what defines a cloud forest, but it is an area that is usually, there's clouds every day. and we get a couple of hours of sunshine. So we're lucky. We've got some sunshine this morning, but you can see in the background, the clouds will move in. So apologies, I don't have a direct answer for that. You've given me some homework that I will definitely look at for the future. So I'm looking in the chat to see if there's any questions. I know we've had issues with the audio. Ask Carlos how long it'll take for that tree to reach maturity. So these are cedar trees. Again, they were selected because this area has more sunlight. 4 years to reach maturity. And one of the things about these trees is it's the local community working with the Ministry of Forestry here in Nicaragua. They've tried to really encourage any farm owners to reforest areas that were cleared for cattle and to do exactly what we're doing here today, to work integrated and try to have some harmony between a working farm, recognizing that you want to have economic drivers in the region, but also that you're able to reforest and have a nicer balance between the natural landscape and things like working farms, coffee or cattle or whatever it may be. So the local community has started a program where they there's usually one individual who is identified, and they can help connect individuals, farm owners or land managers to obtain the native species of trees and plant those. So we're doing the 200 today. We have 300 more that we're going to identify other areas where we can plant. And then I think there's a total of 8,000 coffee trees total that would be planted this year.
196.
Yep, so this is 196 trees planted. We're gonna finish these up today. I know we may not have the full amount of time to show you all of those, but there's actually 2 trees being planted, so we're getting closer. Yes, so the reason why the trees were selected, there were 5 different species of trees that were provided through the local community, and the ones here are trees that match more with the type of habitat here. So because there's been a loss of tree coverage, like the canopy coverage, these trees can handle the sunlight, in addition to, as Martine showed you, the root system, the wind, the weather that is aiding these trees in falling down. There's been somewhat of an anomaly occurring in this area recently, which is the purpose of the reforestation program. But with those changes, we're looking at which trees, always plant the right tree in the right place, so the right amount of sunlight, and also the topography and the soil conditions. So we try to match up the tree species with the right location. You can see this farm as you move, as I'm panning over to the right, it's got some flat areas, but if I pan further over to the right, we've got, I don't know, I would ask some of those math classes. If we have math classes, that looks like it's more than a 45-degree angle in some areas. But when you get rain, as we've had this time of year, it is just very, very mucky, muddy, and with the winds blowing through this area, we lose quite a few trees. Thank you so much for having us, Joe. Thanks to the Darwin program, and congratulations on just an amazing program.
Bye, Joe.
There's tree 200, I believe we've got going in. There you go. Thanks so much, Joe. Bye, everybody.
All right. Very, very cool. We had the team out there from the Fabien Cousteau Ocean Learning Center, Pamela and Martine, and some of the community planting 200 trees today in honor of DARWIN200. That's absolutely epic. A huge shout out to them and the work that they are doing. There were a few questions in the chat. The trees that they picked need to be able to survive on that steep angle. They need to be able to hold the soil together to prevent that erosion. The cedar trees are great for the sun. And then those coffee trees, they mentioned it's a working farm. So they're trying to find that right balance between being able to make some money through the farm work, but also protecting the land, keeping it from eroding, making it possible for wildlife to live there. So those coffee trees are a great selection for the lower canopy, the understory. And then they're really important because you can also harvest those beans later. So very, very cool. Now, the Darwin 200, when we were in Rio de Janeiro, we replanted a corridor of trees between two protected areas of the Golden Lion Tamarin Association. So we had community members out. We planted 2,500 trees to leave this corridor. So we have a little video here that I want to play that really highlights what it was like planting those trees. So Stuart McPherson was able to join us to make a little recording. Let's take a look at our progress reforesting that corridor. All right. Well, while we were in Rio, we spent some time reforesting the Atlantic Rainforest. It's a spot that Charles Darwin thoroughly enjoyed visiting. He writes about it a lot in his journals from the trip. But since then, those areas have been badly degraded. Over 80% of the Atlantic Rainforest has been lost. What's left is very fragmented and not connected, which isn't great for animals to be able to move from one patch to another. So what we did while we were there is we planted trees and we connected a corridor between two reserve patches so that animals would be able to move more easily. So here to tell us about it, we have expedition leader Stuart McPherson. I'm going to bring him in right now. Hey, Stuart, how are you?
Hello, Joe. It's lovely to speak to you. How are you?
Good, good. It's great to be speaking with you. We have, I'm back in Canada. You're still in Rio. Still lots of work to be done.
Yes.
But it's great to be able to join you and to have you tell us a little bit about the planting.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was a really exciting week. As you mentioned, the objective was to plant a corridor of trees between two sections of this beautiful Atlantic rainforest. This is really, really important. The problem with a lot of areas around the world is that when fragments of forest get isolated, the animals in those fragments can get really, really separated from the rest of their kind, the rest of their species. This can cause certain populations to come inbred and eventually die out. So it was a really, really successful and important project that we did. It was connecting an existing reserve already owned by the Association of the Golden Lion Tamarin to a new section of forest that they'd recently acquired. So our mission during the 6 days that we were there was to plant up to 2,500 trees to make like a bridge, like a corridor, a long, thin section joining up these two reserves. As the trees then grow up, the idea is that the animals, particularly the tamarins, can then climb and go through them. And as if to prove the point, just before we arrived there, a couple of days beforehand, the team found a sloth abandoned on the ground halfway between the two patches of forest. This poor little sloth had been trying to get between the sections of forest. So it really proved the point and why this corridor was so needed. So that's what we did. I think we've got a drone clip now showing the planting process as we were digging and planting all those trees. Maybe you could show that one next. Here we go. You can see all those little spots. Each one of those is a new tree that we dug a hole and planted into the ground. And as the drone shot pulls out, you'll be able to see this long, thin strip of land that we're trying to reforest that connects from the existing reserve to the new one. The existing reserve is the one on the left. It's a really big patch of forest, and the newly acquired land is on the right. So yeah, that's what we're undertaking, and that's what we're really, really busy doing. We had literally hundreds and hundreds of school children take part during the week. Some days up to 70 kids each morning, and each student planted 1, 2, 3, or even 4, or even 5 trees sometimes. It's pretty hard work, so they did amazingly well. And each night we did a little update video showing our progress, and little by little through the week, yeah, we got the 2,500 trees in the ground and planted. It's really amazing to see how fast the landscape can change. I think you'll see this in the next clip. Within just a few years, the landscape, it completely alters as a result of those trees being planted. Years ago, that hill in front, all of that looked like that. It was agricultural pastures with cows on. The Association of the Golden Lion Tamarin team planted trees up there since 2019, 4 years ago, and look how it's regrown. This is their newly acquired property all down here, and this is what's going to be planted next. So it's amazing to think that you can rebuild these forests and you can put the trees back and rebuild those ancient ecosystems. Incredible how fast from that pastures to that. Gives hope for the future. Yeah, I mean, it really is incredible. That area was planted in 2019. It's 2023, obviously, now. So it's astounding how fast it can grow. You often hear about conservation being a bit doom and gloom, but this example of the replanting of the Atlantic rainforest just shows that, you know, it's not doom and gloom. Forests can be replanted, trees can be put back into the ground, and these ecosystems can be redeveloped. And on that note, I think our next clip shows some of our team doing exactly that. And we had a surprise along the way. Oh, you're planting?
Yeah, in a few years we're gonna have a beautiful tree here, I guess.
Absolutely. Just think you might have golden line tamarinds on your tree. Oh, I got a dog on our tree right now, haven't we, little guy? I'm sorry, the trees aren't for you, little guy. Hang on. Oh. See, the wildlife corridor is already working. Well done, Timo. Keep up the effort. Yeah, so we weren't really expecting a dog there, but yeah, it just goes to show he loved the trees as well. So even though they're little seedlings at the moment, in just 2 or 3 years, they'll start to fill out that area, that corridor, and we're going to come back in a few years and see how those trees are doing. So it's a serious point. In a few years, that the golden line tamarinds may well be using the very trees that we planted and using to cross into the new reserve. So it was a wonderful, wonderful week doing this, and just a massive thank you once again to the Association of the Golden Line Tamarind, all of the volunteers that took place, especially from the local community, all of the school children. We had our DARWIN200 team, our Darwin leaders, and your good self as well, Joe, planting, and all of our friends that joined us for the week that we're in Rio de Janeiro, and of course the crew of our ship, the Oosterschelde, as well. So a massive thank you to everyone that took part, and anyone out there that's watching, please, please, please volunteer for similar projects. Planting trees like this is so important. So we've all got to do our part and help rebuild some forests around the world.
All right, Stuart, thank you so much for joining us with that update today. It was an incredible week to see the site, to see the connectivity, and to see so many of the, our community and the local community coming out to make it happen. It was awesome. All right, so there's a little taste of what we got up to. So we got to see that tree planting happening live, 200 trees for the DARWIN200 in Nicaragua, and then a little catch up on what we did in Rio de Janeiro, planting those trees at the Golden Line Tamarind Association. So we're going to take a little trip now to the Oosterschelde. I think our team got in here just in time backstage. Let's see if they can hear and see us. Hey, Rodri. Hey, Tom. Hey, Grant. Luca.
Hey.
How is everybody?
Great.
Oh, good.
Rolling.
Awesome. Thank you for sending that drone footage this morning, Tom. That was absolutely amazing footage leaving Rio.
No problem at all. We had such a awesome departure from the harbour. We got some great shots.
Yeah. So since leaving, what's it been like? How's it been like out on the water?
It's been really nice. We had a bit of wind earlier today. Managed to get the sails up, but unfortunately it's dropped off now, and we're back on the engine and rolling around.
All right.
Horizon behind us.
Yeah.
Going up and down.
Yeah, very cool. So Luca, you were working a little bit on the biodiversity transect. So going through some sections of the forest and kind of looking at the difference between primary forest, secondary forest that's been replanted. Can you tell us just briefly, maybe a minute, about what you got up to, what you saw?
Yeah, definitely. So along with Grant as well, we were mostly counting birds on the different types of forests. And I'm not sure if the results are out yet, Grant?
Yeah, so we were surveying birds on other biodiversity generally, and pasture, newly replanted forests, and then more mature secondary forests. And our results were pretty clear. We found that in the pasture, it's a kind of a climax ecosystem where everything that it can exist there is already there. And so we had about 42 species, I think. And then in the secondary forest, we had a slight drop. In the newly replanted forest, we have 39 or so species. And you would expect that because there's a little bit of a lag as the forest is starting to recover. But then after 50 years, we showed that you had more than double that number in the mature secondary forest. So we had close to 100 species in the 60-year-old replanted plots. So it's really cool because it shows you the value of reforestation right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So just quickly, classrooms that are tuning in, if you do any questions for the guys on the ship, you can put those into the chat for us. I think our connection might have just froze for a second, so we'll see if that comes back for us. Sometimes when you're out in the middle of the ocean with the Starlink, it can freeze up a little. Guys, can you hear me again?
I can hear you.
All right, perfect. So Grant, I know you're back on the ship and sailing. How's the seabird survey going? Have you seen any seabirds since you guys set sail?
There's always seabirds, Joe. The newest species that we've documented are kelp gulls, which are a Southern Ocean species, but they're really large and they look a lot like the ones that we have closer to the UK. But yeah, it's great to be back at sea. I think, it's the unknown that's the most exciting. We have no idea what we're going to see next.
All right. And Rodri and Tom, I know the two of you were with the Golden Lion Tamarin Association, one out in the Atlantic Rainforest, one focusing more on the Golden Lion Tamarins. How was your week out in the field?
It was absolutely incredible. It's like, for me, it was like the first time to look at like the social interaction between the monkeys, especially between the young monkeys and like the mother. Like it was just mind blowing. It was really good, like because like the younger monkeys like stay on the backs of the adults, and sometimes they like scream and cry a little bit too much, and they end up being passed around from adult to adult when they when they get fed up. It was very entertaining to watch and even better to film.
All right, Tom, what about you? How was your week?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I was working with Jessica, looking at the Atlantic rainforest as an ecosystem as a whole, and how over the past few hundred years the land use has caused a lot of fragmentation within the rainforest. The animals such as patches of forest, and then we were looking at the work that the association were doing and other organizations to reconnect these areas through projects like the DARWIN200 tree planting, and how that can enable basically a brighter future for all the animals within the ecosystem.
All right. Very cool, guys. We have a question here from Seven Oaks Prep School. They're in the United Kingdom. And they have two questions. They want to know, what are the stars like at night? And then they want to know, now that people are back on the ship and there's new passengers, is there any seasickness happening?
Oh, I lost you there, Joe. You still there?
Yeah, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, could you say the second question again?
Yeah, so the first one was the stars, and the second one, now that there's new passengers on board, is there anyone feeling a little seasickness?
Wow. Well, first of all, it kind of depends, like with the stars. Like obviously like the best time to see stars is like when it's a cloudless sky and like the moon's not too bright. Like last night wasn't so good because it was
alright. I mean, I was on watch from midnight to 4 a.m. On deck, and you could see the Milky Way pretty well, and I think I saw like 3 shooting stars. So, but yeah, like you said, I think it depends on the day. But last night was, I'd say, fairly good. You could definitely see most of the Milky Way. It was quite nice.
All right. What about the seasickness action, Rodri? Anyone having trouble getting their sea legs?
No, I think we're all okay. We've been like sat down in the saloon like on our laptops, so.
Speak for yourself, Roger.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay. I don't know about you guys, but.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for doing this connection with us today. I know the connectivity is kind of going in and out a little bit, but maybe if you can still hear me, if you can do just a little pan around, let us see the ocean, let us see the ship before we sign off for today.
Okay, so yeah. It's a very well. There's a lot of swell.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We battled the connectivity. We got to have a nice little chat. And yeah, have fun out there. Enjoy the time heading towards Uruguay.
Awesome. Will do.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya. All right, there we go. There's the team. We had Rodri and Tom, 2 camera guys on board, and then Luca and Grant are working on some of the science. So really great that they were able to connect with us. Some days the connections are a little better than others, but we got a pretty good connection today. So that was nice to have the chance to talk to the guys. So we have a few more things to do today. We are going to do our experiment. So 2 weeks ago, our experiment was capillary action, and we were looking at what would happen with some colored liquids and using some paper towels between different beakers. So let's take a look and see what the results were from our experiment 2 weeks ago, and then we'll have a brand new experiment to share with classrooms. So we will start off with last week's experiment, and then we will go from there.
Welcome back. What were the results of your capillary experiment? Well, let's have a look at mine. As you may remember, I put in blue food colouring into the beaker on this side here. I put in yellow in here, and I left it running for 1 hour, 2 hours, and 4 hours. After 1 hour, I noticed that the food colouring solutions had crept up the paper towel. This is actually going against the force of gravity because of the capillary action of the towel. The water is passing through the fibres inside the towel and being absorbed through the towel and actually then going into the beaker in the middle. By 2 hours, I noticed that the solutions were dripping into the middle beaker and it was slowly filling up. And after 4 hours, the contents of the 3 beakers had pretty much equalised. Note the one in the middle is a mixture of the blue solution and the yellow solution, so that it appears this wonderful green colour. The transportation of these fluids through the fibres of this tissue paper partly explains how many plants absorb water and solutions of nutrients into the microscopic structures in their roots and then into their vein-like xylem. Now let's find out how you got on and look at some of the results that you sent in. Let's also see who won those 3 £50 Amazon voucher prizes.
All right, so very cool experiment showing capillary action. Our last 2 experiments really focused on plants. We had our one looking at transpiration, so how water moves up from the roots to the tops of plants and trees, even 100+ meters up from the ground. We looked at how heat and air movement affected that, and then so we had our capillary action experiment as well. It was really cool the way to see the 2 beakers kind of stabilize and the liquid move through, and we got that green color in the middle. We will send messages to the 3 classroom students who are the winners from this week's experiment. And now we're going to take a look at this week's experiment, and then you'll have 2 weeks to send your answers in, and I'll share that website with you right after we take a look at this week's experiment.
Welcome back. No doubt you've heard of photosynthesis. This is the process by which plants use sunlight to transform water and carbon dioxide into glucose and oxygen. This is an incredibly important process. Plants use that glucose as their energy to grow, and the oxygen that's produced as a byproduct is what we breathe. You can see photosynthesis happen and plants producing oxygen. This is best observed with aquatic plants, and that is what today's experiment is all about. You need a large container to hold water, such as a large measuring jug, a few beakers of water, ideally a see-through funnel, if you can get one, a test tube, and some pondweed. This experiment is quite simple. The first step is to put some pieces of pondweed into your container. So let's just pop a few of these in. These, hopefully, are going to photosynthesize for us and produce lots of oxygen bubbles. So let's put those in here. You have to find a funnel that just fits inside your container. And I think, yep, this one will do just nicely. You've got to angle it really carefully so all of the pondweed is below the funnel. And this is why having a transparent funnel is important, because light has to pass through the funnel and actually illuminate the plants they photosynthesize. So you really need to find a glass funnel if you can. The next step is carefully fill up your container with lots of water. The more the better. Try and get it as high to the top of the container as you can, because you'll see why in a second. You might have to hold the funnel down as you do this. Let's put in a little bit more. There we go. I think that's about as full as I can get it. And next, the tricky bit. So what you have to do is get a test tube, put it into the container, fill it with water, put your thumb or finger over it, and then put it on top of the funnel so it stays full. Now, if you look really closely, you'll see the funnel then leads straight into that test tube. You're ready to go. You then need a bright light source, such as a desk lamp, and you've got to put it as close to your container as you possibly can. Then you have to leave it for an hour or two. Look really carefully at the plants and see if anything happens or anything changes. Run this experiment at home over the next 2 weeks and send in photos of your pondweed and any oxygen that it's produced that it should collect in this test tube. We've got 3 £50 Amazon gift voucher prizes to give away for the winning entries. Join me in 2 weeks' time and we'll look at the results of my experiment and see if my pondweed has photosynthesized and produced any oxygen. Good luck and see you next time.
All right, so there we go. There's your experiment of the week. There's your challenge for the week, looking at photosynthesis. It's a fairly simple experiment, but the results are really, really cool. And it really proves how important plants are to the production of oxygen that we need day in and day out. You have 2 weeks to get that in. You can find the video. It'll be on our website, DARWIN200.com. It will be on YouTube. You can find the list of experiments as well with the questions that you need to answer, and then send it into classroom@darwin200.com. The top 3 entries will receive a £50 Amazon gift card. So classroom@darwin200.com, 2 weeks to get it in. Now it's time for us to play a little Kahoot together. While this event was going on today, I pulled together a few questions that you should be able to answer if you were hanging out with us, if you were paying attention today. So you should see my screen now. You should hear the Kahoot music playing. You need to go to kahoot.it. So www.kahoot.it. It's going to ask you for a PIN number. Today's PIN number is 5926718. Now, if you are in the classroom and you have a Chromebook or a tablet or something at your desk, you can join right there. If not, your teacher could put this at the front of the room and you could shout out your answers to him or her. If you are joining us from home and you have maybe a tablet or you have a phone handy, you can scan that QR code up at the top and it will bring you right in. Nice and quick and easy one today because we are tight on time. We have 4 questions. There are some multiple choice. There are some true and false. And yeah, our top person today, could it be the Swift Bunny, the Groovy Giraffe, the Mystery Panda? Our top class will receive a £50 Amazon gift voucher. Remember that these are timed questions. So you want the right answer, of course, but the quicker you can put in the right answer, the more points you are going to receive. As we have a few more students, a few more classes joining, I will give you a little rundown for the rest of today's event. We are going to do the curiosity of the week next. So we have last week's answer. Then we have our brand new curiosity challenge for our classrooms. And then depending on the time we have left, I might play one video from our Darwin leader, Joseph, who was with the reintroduction of the howler monkeys, which is such an amazing project. In fact, I might see if I can get Marcelo to join us next week and tell us a little bit about that project in more detail. There we go. We have a nice group, nice individual students. Some of these are classrooms representing. That's great. I'm going to give it about 10 more seconds, and then we will get our Kahoot started. We have our experiment of the week already there for you. Photosynthesis, 2 weeks to get your answers in. We will hit our curiosity of the week next, but for now, let's play a little Kahoot. All right, first question. Where did the Fabien Cousteau Ocean Learning Center join us from today? Where were they planting trees today, our live group? Was it Panama? Was it Nicaragua? Was it Ecuador? Or was it Brazil? So where did our live group join us from today? Panama, Nicaragua, Ecuador, or Brazil? Oof, could not fool our crew today. They were in Nicaragua. So last week they joined us from the ocean, from the Pacific Ocean, where they were at their sea turtle hatchery and they released some Olive Ridley's turtles. And so this week they are out in the cloud forest doing some planting. Very cool. Good job, crew. So that puts the sturdy sea lion in that top spot. Let's go to our next question. True or false? Corridors are important wildlife highways to connect habitats. True or false? Corridors through the forest or over roads or things like that. They are important wildlife highways connecting habitats. Is that true or is that false? All right. It is absolutely true. You know, Stuart was talking about just before we did our corridor, just outside of Rio de Janeiro, while the crew was cleaning the area, making sure it was ready to plant, they found a sloth laying in the middle of the field. It was trying to crawl between the two protected areas. Now, it's a happy ending story because the team was able to move the sloth back into the rainforest where it belonged, but it really illustrated why corridors are so important. If there isn't a way for animals to get between these two spots, they're not going to do it. And if they do try to do it, they could end up getting hurt. They could end up dying. So these wildlife corridors are so very, very important. All right. The excited wombat has taken that top spot. We have our third question. How many trees did DARWIN200 plant? So while we're in Rio, did we plant 1,000? Did we plant 2,000, 2,500, or 3,000 trees? How many trees did we plant over the 5-day period? 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, or 3,000 trees? All right, we got a great crew today. We're nailing these answers. 2,500 trees in that corridor. I can't wait in a few years to see what it's going to look like. We had a chance to see other corridors they planted in the past in different fields, and they grow up so amazingly into this secondary forest that birds and insects and reptiles, amphibians and mammals can use to get from place to place and move through these corridors. It's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see ours in a few years. The amusing mouse has jumped into first place. We have one more question. We're going to finish off with a true and false. The stars show up better in the city than when the DARWIN200 is sailing on the ocean. What do you think? Do you see more stars in the city, or do you think the DARWIN200 team on the Oosterschelde is seeing more stars when they're sailing at night? Better in the city or better out on the ocean? Where do you think we're seeing more stars? Ooh, we had a split, a 50-50 split, but it is definitely out on the ocean. Some nights can be tricky if the moon's really bright, but on a whole, there's no light pollution when they're sailing far away from land on the ocean. So when you're in the city and the light from the city is shining upwards into the sky, you don't get to see a lot of stars, and very rarely do you get to see an arm of the Milky Way. When you leave the city and you get out where there's less lights, or you're out on the ocean like the Oosterschelde, you unlock a whole sky that we just don't get to see in the city. So very lucky, very amazing. I hope you guys get a chance to leave the city sometimes and see what the night sky looks like without all of that light pollution. I am going to do a little podium here. Let's see how we did. So in third place, we had the sturdy sea lion. In second place, we had the melodic wildcat. And holding down that top spot, we had the amusing mouse. Very cool. Thanks so much, everybody, for taking part. It's always fun to play our little cahoots together. I'm going to slide back over and put the screen share here to make sure you know the email for our winning class. It is ebtsoyp@gmail.com. And in fact, it looks like it got deleted here in my banner. So I'm going to make a new banner here really quickly for you guys. @gmail.com. There we go. So there it is, our winning class, ebtsoyp@gmail.com. Send me a quick message and let me know, and then we will get that £50 gift card coming your way. So next week, we will, a week from now, connect again. The ship will have arrived in Uruguay, and we will be visiting a brand new country where we have a brand new collection of projects, new Darwin leaders from around the world coming on board to work on their conservation projects. It is always an exciting time to meet the new conservationists, to really have a chance to dive into new projects and bring new stories to you. It's always very, very cool. So the last thing we have to do today is to thank our sponsors, without whom none of this would be possible. We have amazing sponsors. We have amazing partners that let us travel around the world like this and bring these stories, bring these adventures, bring these youth from around the world together. So let's thank our sponsors for today before we sign off. I hope to see everybody next week in our 14th edition of the world's most exciting classroom. And here we go. Let's thank our sponsors and sign off for today.